actions on increasing our urban tree canopy and responding to the polyphagous shot hole borer. So the tree bait program was an election commitment that we made to provide a $150 rebate to people in Western Australia across the whole state to buy a tree and plant it in their yard. And so that tree bait program will commence on Monday morning, and people will be able to access the rebate through the Safe WA app or download a form off the website. The tree recovery program is in relation to the polyphagous shot hole borer, and this program is to provide people who have been affected by the polyphagous shot hole borer in terms of a tree that's been removed from their property by deep herd, and they will get up to a $150 rebate for a replacement tree. They can also, through that particular program, use the rebate money to buy soil and other bits and pieces that they need to plant their new tree. In terms of the programs, with the tree bait program, we're focusing on Australian native trees, so that is what will be eligible for a rebate. And with respect to the tree recovery program, because people have lost trees of all sorts, they'll be able to buy a tree of their choice and the kind of tree that they want to plant. But this is a really great opportunity for us to increase the canopy across the whole state. It doesn't just apply to Perth here, and to increase what is a wonderful part of our community, which is the amenity and the biological diversity that trees provide to us. So it's really exciting, and the program, the tree bait program, aims to deliver 10,000 trees across its first year, and it's a 4-year program. So we hope at the end of the 4-year program that we'll see up to 40,000 new trees in our community. I'll now ask Minister Carey to make a contribution in relation to the urban tree canopy.
Thank you. Look, we know that trees and tree canopy plays an important part in our neighbourhoods. The fact is that trees in our streets cool our neighbourhoods, make them more livable, and of course they're important for biodiversity. So we shouldn't underestimate how important it is for continued efforts to increase tree canopy. That's why you're seeing these initiatives announced today. And of course we know this, and the Hyde Park is an example of this, that the shot hole borer has had a devastating impact on our tree canopy. That's why we've got to do everything we can to boost it. So it's a range of initiatives, including the tree bait program, which is about encouraging residents, it's about encouraging people to think about planting a tree at their home, but also that it's a native tree and all the benefits that it brings. In addition to that, later this year, we'll be announcing and revealing our $10 million urban greening canopy program. That will be grants that will be provided to a range of organisations, local governments, or even government agencies to boost tree canopy, particularly in public land. So there is a concerted effort to assist with and to boost tree canopy in Perth. I also do note that our state government this year released the dashboard, and that dashboard is critical because it provides detailed reporting suburb by suburb of the current state of tree canopy in Perth and urban areas. So all of this is needed. It's all part of a big push to boost canopy, which we understand is critical for biodiversity, but also improves where we live in our local neighbourhoods. I might pass over now to the expert, who's Josh. Thanks.
These programs are a great way to support community in contributing to growing our urban canopy, which of course is a shared responsibility. It's really good to see the tree bait program in particular incentivising increased planting of native species, which we know not only provide better urban habitat benefits, but also are typically more resilient in a warming and drying climate. The focus of this program, in fact both programs, is to make sure we're putting in trees that have a canopy above 3 metres. And I would certainly be encouraging people to think about putting trees in that maximise the canopy suited to their location. So the best place to start is to speak to experts at your local garden centre or nursery to find the right species for the right spot. And of course that's also a great place to get some additional tips and guidance on putting the tree in. It's also a great thing to get kids involved in this, because these are green assets that will be around for decades to come if we put them in properly, and again, find the right species for the right spot. So it makes sense to involve the next generation who will be the stewards of these trees and help nurture the urban forest for hopefully many decades to come. When it comes to planting, some practical tips we're going to take you through shortly, hopefully with some helpers from the kids. Right spot, right tree, look after it and see these as shared assets. Thank you.
What's the average price point on a tree fitting that sort of description? How far does that $150 get you?
So if you look at the maximum tree size that you could get at a retail nursery for $150, it typically would be either a 25 or 45 litre tree, and that refers to the size of the container or the root ball. As far as height or stem height, that's typically 1 to 1.5 metres. So that's what you'll get at sort of the top end of that rebate price. But I often encourage people to actually plant trees, especially native species, slightly smaller. So anywhere from 5 to 10 litres is a good sized tree to plant. It means they've been in that grow bag for less time and they're likely to establish into strong trees. Now that's not to say bigger trees won't also do well, but for ease of handling, the smaller trees are also a great option.
And how long might it be till you're seeing the full benefits of that tree sort of growing to size?
So the time it takes for a tree to develop into what we would call a mature canopy, where it's providing some shade, does vary species to species. But it can be anywhere from sort of 5 to 10 years when you're seeing a tree really beginning to demonstrate some shading and filling out its space. But long-term maturity can be anywhere from 15 to 20 years or above, but again, species dependent.
I think the point about tree planting is that the best time to plant a tree was probably 20 years ago, and the second best time to plant a tree is today. And that's really what this is about. We're thinking about 20 years, 10, 20 years from now, and the benefit that will happen. And tree planting is a long-term project. And often people who plant trees don't see the full benefit of it, because the benefit of the trees, and the trees in this park, for example, were probably planted by people that are long gone now, but they had the foresight and the vision to plant a tree for the future generations, for their children, their grandchildren, and so on. And so I think it's a really encouraging thing, and I endorse what Josh says. Get the children involved, because they're the ones that will see the benefits of this. And a shady tree community is so much more amenable, but also a lot cooler. And with obviously the warming climate that we have here in the southwest and across other parts of the state, trees are a key way of helping us to keep our climate and our local environments a lot cooler, and probably a lot cheaper when it comes to your air conditioning bill in summertime.
Minister, Hyde Park's been hit pretty hard through trees that have had to be ripped out because, of course, of tree pests. Can you give us a bit of an update on, I know that I think the latest was just before the budget where the government talked about going into a, instead of eradication, to control. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so there was about 300 trees that were affected, or tree-like structures, as I think they were described to me, in this park that had to be removed. And when we first identified polyphagous shot hole borer, and so what happened is that in 2021, when it was first identified, the plan was eradication. And when it comes to eradication, it's pretty full on. You know, you don't muck around, you get in there, and sadly that means the removal of trees and then the dealing with the remaining tree product in a way that ensures that the pest doesn't continue to breed or have the opportunities to breed. But in conjunction with the tree recovery program for residents, there's also a program for local governments as well. And so that program has already gone out for local governments to subscribe to it, and so the program closing off for this round very soon, or has just closed off, and that program will provide local governments to plant 3 trees for every 1 tree that they've lost as a result.
300 trees were here that we're talking about, ripped out?
Yeah, right? That's right, yeah.
So, I know this has been documented a fair bit, but how confident are you, obviously, as Environment Minister, that in years to come we won't be looking at mass destruction of our trees? And how confident are you that it won't get out of the Perth metropolitan area?
Well, I think we've now moved to a management stage with this infernal pest, I think we can call it. And so in relation to that, what we need for people to do is now to focus on localised responses to their infestations, to be aware. The Department of Primary Industries and, or DPIRD as we call it, I've forgotten what the rest of it's called, they have a web page which provides useful information if people become aware that their tree may have an infestation. I encourage them to go to that web page to report the infestation, but because we're now going to the management phase, people will be in a better position to actually make a decision as to what they do with their tree, as opposed to have government officials come and remove it for you.
Much not about eradication, we're just about containment, aren't we?
Management is the word I think we use, for want of splitting hairs on that, and I think that's the issue we've got with this. And we've unfortunately seen in the past exotic pests come into our communities. Nobody wants it. The federal government spends an inordinate amount of money on the borders, and we have our own quarantine people as well. You've probably all experienced the messages that you get when you fly from over east about fruit and honey in your bag, and not to bring it into Western Australia, because we put a lot of effort in. But unfortunately there are holes in the system, and these things have got into our community. I remember that there was a pest that got into and killed off a lot of the Cape lilac trees. There was this caterpillar moth. Josh probably knows more about it than I do. And whilst those Cape lilac trees or the white cedar trees are not native here, they were providing urban canopy at that time, and a lot of local governments had to remove them because that pest, which I think had come in through potting mix, got into our environment. So, Joe, we try our best to ensure that these things are not getting in. Everybody should be vigilant when they come into the country. Don't bring wood products, don't bring organic products that are not necessary or which potentially carry these bugs, and that's a responsibility that rests with all of us. If you do decide, if you do see something, report it to the DPIRD officers, and so that we can get on top of it as quickly as we can, because as soon as we can respond to them, the sooner we can do stuff about that. But with climate change, we will see, unfortunately, an increase in number of the pests that move down further south from the north, and so we need to be more vigilant about that as well.
Do you think we're underplaying the threat of the borer?
Underplaying it?
Yeah, do you think we're underplaying it?
I wouldn't say we're underplaying it. We've put a lot of effort and a lot of money in trying to eradicate it. We've worked with the Commonwealth. Those sort of programs are nationwide programs, so we did what we could, but at this stage it's moving to management. The pest has infected other areas of the world, like California and places like that. They're in a management stage because unfortunately they were not able to eradicate it at its earliest opportunities. But as you know, eradication is extremely harsh. It's the removal of mature trees that people love. I recall that when they were doing it here, in fact the local member might be better placed to speak about the impacts it had at the time on community. People were grieving for the loss of those trees, and we don't want to see that. And I think one of the reactions and the things that we can do about them is to plant trees that are more resilient to those sorts of things. And Josh has outlined to us that Australian native trees tend to be much more resilient to the infestation. It's largely the exotic trees that have been affected by the most, but we want to make sure we're planting an environment that's resilient. But yeah, pests are a continuing issue for us, and we've got a great environment here in Western Australia, largely free of pests and diseases, but it takes a lot of time and effort, and a community effort as well, to ensure that we keep those pests out of our state. I'm not talking about the Carlton football team either, by the way. Sorry, don't take that one down. Any other questions? You want to speak to Minister Carey?
Yeah, just want to ask, what's going on with cardio imaging?
So there is a business case underway at the moment, but what I do want to assure West Australians is that it is operating safely, and that in terms of both the diagnosis and treatment of patients, it is having no adverse impacts.
Doctors raised serious concerns 2 years ago. Is it a bit late for a business case?
Look, I understand that, but I mean, the reality is, all the advice to me is that it is operating safely. You have to remember this. This is heavily regulated by the Radiological Council, and the health service provider provides regular reports. All the advice is, it is operating safely and it is having no adverse impacts on patients' diagnosis or treatment.
So up to the standard where Medicare rebates can still be offered?
I'm advised Medicare rebates are still being offered.
But, Minister, the West Australian reports an internal radiation survey of the equipment had, exposure increase from a dosage of 17.4 to 31.39, above the recommended limit of 30. So this would indicate that people are being exposed to unacceptable levels of radiation. Is that not the advice you're being given?
So the advice, I need to be clear, this type of equipment is heavily regulated by the Radiological Council, and there requires to be regular reporting by the hospital to that council. Now, I'm advised there have been no breaches, that the equipment is operating safely, and there have been, in those reports, of no concern to the council.
So you're looking the public in the eye and saying, if you happen to be treated, if you understand with this outdated equipment, you're not being zapped by unacceptable levels of radiation.
Well, so Joe, I want to provide people with a clear assurance. We take patient safety very seriously. Now, the advice provided to me is that service being provided is not impacting or having adverse impact on people's diagnosis or treatments. It is heavily regulated by the Radiological Council. So there is oversight and there's regular reporting. We have a huge hospital system and we are undertaking unprecedented investment. Just in the last budget alone, we provided an additional $1.4 billion for our hospital system. As the Minister responsible for health infrastructure, I'm overseeing a $3.2 billion program to upgrade and improve hospitals. So we are making an extraordinary investment in our hospital system, and all the advice to me is that the oversight is in place, there is regular reporting, and that it is safe.
John, when a patient's being told that the equipment is outdated, and are they being informed of any potential risks? Are patients being told when they're being treated that this is, outdated, exceeding the 10-year use-by date?
So respectfully, Joe, I'm not the expert, or nor are you, the people in the hospital system, but we are guided by the advice and the oversight of the Radiological Council. So that's the right approach, and I have confidence in that oversight.
What can you tell me about the business case then? How long has that been?
Well, look, I can't, as you know, Joe, you are probably better versed than anyone else in the political arena. A business case is being developed. It will be going to ERC and is subject to those processes.
Those concerns raised in 2023 mentioned that equipment being offline at times due to malfunctions. Have those continued since? Are we seeing more of those because of the age of the
Well, so can I be very clear on this? We have a large hospital system with a large amount of equipment, and from time to time there will be breakdowns. That is anticipated to be in such large-scale hospital system. But again, I come back to this. There is oversight. With any radiological services, we have a council in place. There is regular reporting. Now, what I've been advised is that in those reports there has been no breach and there's been no areas of concern for the council.
Is there a difference between being up to standard radiological standards as there is with best practice?
Well, what I would say is ultimately the patient needs to know that the service is safe, and it is, and that is occurring.
How can you get to it? How can you...
concern in 2023, and they haven't been listened to, does it maybe mean that the system maybe needs a review, maybe something needs to change?
Look, I respect doctors. They will always advocate for the system. I respect the work of the AMA. But I would again point to all the investment that this state government is making. Record investment. Since we've come to power, there's been a 61% increase in health expenditure. In the last budget, $1.4 billion for operations, $3.2 billion for infrastructure. So we are making serious investments to improve our hospital system.
And yet we've got a situation where we've got outdated equipment. being used. I mean, how can you justify that?
Well, what I'd say, Joe, is we have a large hospital system. We are undertaking major improvements and upgrades, and there is a business case underway.
When were you made aware of these issues?
Look,
Obviously it's a new portfolio, John.
so no, so these issues are obviously at a health service provider level. I've only just become aware of those issues, but of course, I've sought assurance in relation to patient safety. I will always, as will any Minister of Cabinet, always put patient safety first.
Are you annoyed that you're having the front cameras today and not the Health Minister on this?
My job as the Health Infrastructure Minister, Joe, is to focus on improving the hospital system. I'm responsible for procurement, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure that record investment in our health system is being delivered.
Is there any sort of timeline attached to that business case?
Well, look, as soon as we can make an announcement, of course we will.
Just got a question on another issue. The WA Liberal State Council is meeting today in Canning to discuss 3 motions. One of those is to dump their net zero policy. Another is their welcome to country ceremonies, to dump those, and as well as only flying Commonwealth and state flags at government events. Do you think this is the right direction for the state and federal lids to take, particularly after the last election?
I would say this, what a bunch of numpties. They are focused on the issues that don't matter to West Australians. Seriously, this is a culture war. They can't help themselves. This is the Conservative wing under Nick Goran demonstrating again that they're in control and pushing an agenda that no one else talks about. I was door knocking this morning in my own community. No one raised those issues. No one raises culture wars. But the Liberal Party and their leadership and Nick Goran cannot help themselves. At every opportunity, they must launch culture wars. And that's what makes them irrelevant. No one raises those sorts of issues with me. So quite frankly, they can go off and debate as much as they want in their little circles. But ultimately, this is a demonstration of the Conservative wing, Nick Goran and the clan still in control and still pursuing culture wars.
Does it sort of go against all the talk they've had of stepping back towards the centre?
Well, absolutely. I mean, Basil Zemplis is beholden to Nick Goran. Let's be very clear. Nick Goran and the clan are back in. He's back as leader of the House in the upper house. So there is no demonstration at all that the Liberal Party is moving to the centre. It's these kinds of obscure debates that no one else is talking about. It's classic culture war rubbish, and they're not focused on the issues that matter to West Australians.
Thank you, Minister.